Good evening, everyone. Welcome to FGMeCast, presenting finally the first race of the ANZCAR Truck Series for 2021, Season 1 2021. We, of course, are at Daytona, as you would have seen just on the screen there, flashing past on the hoardings as we've jumped on with about 5 minutes to go in official practice before we do head into qualifying. 5-minute session there, a closed session, I believe, 5 minutes as normal, and then we will head into our 80-lap feature race for this evening. It is a big field tonight as well, so there's going to be plenty of action coming your way on FGMeCast, and I am joined by Edward Foster, a man who needs no introduction whatsoever as far as the ANZCAR family is concerned. He is the godfather of ANZCAR, and fortunately tonight joining us on the commentary. Welcome, Ed.
Oh, thanks very much. A godfather of ANZCAR. I might actually use that next time I need to make somebody an offer they can't refuse.
Absolutely, put a horse's head in someone's bed.
Yeah, something like that. But yeah, it's really good. It's been a very, not a long off season, but certainly a much anticipated beginning to this particular season. And really good to see such a large field out there. And there were several drivers that couldn't get in the server either, so just because it filled up so fast. And it's been a little bit of a cork in the bottle, just releasing with all the hype that's been building up around ANZCAR for the last few weeks, really leading up to this speed weeks. And it's been reflected in the number of guys we've seen come out tonight.
I must admit, I've very much enjoyed the rundown of the teams entering in the main series, the truck series, the main Brazil Cup series that runs on a Wednesday night. Thursday night, and seeing all the new liveries and all the new drivers and team changes and things like that, because of course we only broadcast a couple of the races last year at the end for the trucks, before getting on board full time this year. So it's good to get an introduction to the bigger part of ANZCAR and see how this all fits together. So with the trucks, how do they fit into the overall ANZCAR picture?
Well, of course, at the very top of the tree, you've got the ANZCAR Cup, which runs all year long and mimics the real-life ANZCAR Cup, or NASCAR Cup Series, I should say. And this is the next tier down. We don't run the Xfinity cars at the moment, so the trucks is the next series down. This series is something that's open to everybody. So if you're in ANZCAR, you can come in and race this. And obviously very, very popular. You get a mix of absolute rookies coming in there, and you've got the guys up the front who are quite often established Cup regulars and Cup winners who come in and have a bit of fun driving around in the trucks as well. So it's a bit of an all-comers race, this one, kind of halfway down the ANZCAR ladder, if you like, with the ARCA series being the feeder series, I suppose, into this one. So, it probably explains why we've got such a big field tonight, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. Sounds like there's plenty of opportunity for people to come in and have a run. And are these much different to the main game? I'm not too familiar with the trucks as opposed to the main cars.
Yeah, look, they certainly are. And I guess the way that they differ really depends by track, because the Cup cars run different aero and different engine packages and so on, depending on what type of track that you're actually running at, whereas the trucks run very similar stuff just about everywhere you go. They do run a restrictor at this particular track just to keep the speeds under control. They're generally a little bit more forgiving to handle. They're a little bit more understeery than a Cup car is most of the time. And they're very popular because they are quite user friendly. So, like all good things in life, easy to learn, hard to master.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was just having a look throughout the field, and I just noticed this man on the list here, Chris Purnell, jumping into one of the utes. We've actually got his old livery up there from a couple of days ago. We'll get that fixed up, but actually showing him from his Endurance Series days, so we'll get that changed over before next time around. But he's running tonight, is he?
Yeah, he's out there running tonight. He's been running sort of mid-pack at the moment, but the lap times don't tell the full story, because generally speaking, your speed is very much controlled by the cars that you're running around and how big the pack that you're running in actually is. The draft here is absolutely everything.
Yep.
So I wouldn't read too much into the lap times. We'll get a bit better idea once we get to the end of qualifying, how everyone's sort of stacking up. But it's one of these types of tracks that everyone likes because anybody can win. You know, this is really a very open race. Any driver that you see there on the grid right now can win this race, just because of the way that the draft works out and the way that the race sort of plays out, and the moves you make that may turn out to be an inspired move or may turn out to be absolutely disastrous through no fault of your own. So it's definitely going to be an open contest tonight, I think.
Yeah, which is obviously what we want to see, and we were treated to some very, very close racing in the last couple of races last season. So I think I mentioned at that point in time, it's the first of the oval track truck series that we've broadcast, and it was great to watch in those first couple of rounds. So I'm looking forward to how in control or out of control a grid of 50 cars is going to be on Daytona.
Yeah, we've only got 35 cars out there tonight, which is the capacity for the real life truck 35. Series, 35. So they'll be out there together, and we're going to have a mix. You know, it's going to be, of course, this is the time of year when so many new people join up to leagues and decide that they want to devote some time to ANZCAR, which is fantastic. But the other thing that it does is that people are learning sort of out there in plain sight as well. So you've got a mix of guys who are very, very, very competent out there, just to say the least. And you've got other guys there who may potentially be brand new. So, and unfortunately, the way that the calendar works out is that Daytona is the first place they go. So they're almost facing that really their sternest test first up. So it can be a bit hit and miss. There can be a little bit of carnage. Wouldn't be surprised to see the big one tonight at some point, definitely. But look, if you can avoid that carnage and get through that, then you may be on for a good result. So let's see.
And what are we looking at in terms of time management here? Is this track quite aggressive? Obviously, the banking here is quite aggressive. So time management going to play a big part as usual?
Absolutely not at all.
Not at all?
There will not be any tyre management in this race at all. Your tyres can probably go for around about, I think it's reasonable, 5 or 6 fuel stints, and the race isn't that long. So,
okay.
you'll generally find, just to make the restarts a little bit easier or whatever, you may find the drivers just taking tyres at the same time as they take fuel.
Yep.
And so yeah, we'll see how that turns out. And interestingly, it appears as though it is supposed to be a lone qualifying, but it looks like we've got a few cars out there together, which yeah, looks like it might be a bit of a mistake.
Lots of cars out there together.
Yeah, well, that's going to make qualifying very, very interesting indeed.
So, of course, as we do on the first edition of just about all of the shows we do, we're just having a few technical issues. I think my mic is about to die, so I'm just going to go quiet for a few seconds and switch over before that happens, because obviously we want to be able to talk you through this one as it continues.
Powering off.
Hello. Hello. So, Ed, I'm not sure if you've got me there or not.
Yeah, I can hear you now, mate.
Yeah, you can hear me, but we can't hear you. Just get that done, and then we'll be back off and running. So, qualifying has finished here at the end. I'm just waiting for that to come up, and we'll give you the results. We're just going to grab Ed in here, so just bear with us again. Sorry about this, everyone. What about now, Ed? Are you there? What about now, Ed? Have we got you there? No, I've still not got you any sound. Sorry about this, everyone. I'm trying to get it fixed. The battery on my headset had died. What about now?
Can you got me?
We've got you, finally. Sorry about that.
Fantastic.
What a drama,
Little
as usual.
start of season teething issues.
That's it. So no, the battery on the headset decided to die even though it's been plugged in and charged. I'm not sure what's going on there, but we've got everyone back now, and we're going to be ready to go when the light goes green. So what we'll do now is we'll bring the grid up on the screen for you so everyone can get an idea of what happened during qualifying there. So we've got Ryan Jones on pole position with Cade Donnelly next to him, Hamish Gallagher and Roger Clark off row 2, familiar names to the series. Jason Hardigan back for another season as well, expecting things from him with with Nigel Patton next to him. We've got Lachlan and Ed Urquijo.
Urquijo,
yep, beautiful. In 7th, and we've got Joshua Carroll Walden out of 8th, Stephen Williams out of 9th, and Gary Wellman out of 10th. Thanks for that, Justin. We actually do have game sound back now, mate. There's just no sound at the moment because the cars are on the dummy grid. We've got Aaron Dillon and Brody Masters off the next row. We'll just flip the page over here and keep things going.
So we've got Christopher Finlay and Aidan Schultz there making up row number 6.
Yep.
It's further back than that. And then we've got Reese May, Paul Jackson, then Carl Whitty and Daniel Stevens starting next to him. Kai Sloggett and Daniel Grzeskovic down there in 20th position. Aaron Major and Mick Taylor, Norman Clark, Troy Davidson, Cam James, Michael Shaw, Bradley Allison, the last one there to set a time. And then we've got Ruben Phelps, Michael Skurlock, Chris Purnell, Matthew Raymond, Luke Trahair, Riley Curtis, Nathan Rollarch, and Jacob Schoiker. That's how I'm going to say it anyway. I haven't actually double-checked, but that's bringing up the rear of the field in 35th position. So a bit of an odd qualifying session there, being all cars on track at once. Not something that we normally see, but in any way, it's given us a very interesting grid, I think.
It's very, very interesting indeed. There's some fast guys at the back there, so expect to see them try and make their way through the field as we get underway with this one.
We've still got cars joining the back of the grid halfway around the lap. They've taken a while to sort of get going and get out of the pits and so on, which often does happen with a big field like that. They take a while to sort of sort themselves out, but it's an absolutely massive grid if you take a look at it. And lining up on the backstretch now, they're just about all 2x2. And we're going to have a look to see how many of these newcomers have actually read the rule book, because it's there are some very strict rules around restarts, starts and restarts in ANZCAR for obvious reasons, because a lot of wrecks used to happen there. ANZCAR restarts are very clean these days. So if these guys have read their rules, we won't have any problems, but time will tell.
It will indeed. It's very much a full grid for tonight, which is great to see. Just making our way back through it just to give you some idea of the length or the train of cars coming through.
All right, we're just about to go. So Ryan Jones has led the field away. Everyone's looks to be away fairly late. Ryan Jones got a little bit of a jump, but he won't want to jump because you don't want the pack to run you over. And Jason Hardigan there pushing hard behind Hamish Gallagher on the inside.
Reasonably smooth start for everyone so far. First lap, get into the groove and get this one underway. A couple drivers down below the line there as well, just trying to make room for themselves where they can. We'll try and give good coverage throughout the field, but of course a massive list of cars here for us to try and jump around between. So if you are in the chat, want to see someone in particular, do let us know. We will try and give them coverage where we can. It is Ryan Jones still in the lead at the moment. He's going to bring us round through the first lap in the big Toyota Tundra.
Yeah, we've got a few cars sort of pushing each other, which is a great way to get an extra little burst of speed, but it will overheat the engine eventually of the car in front, so you have to be careful when and how often you do. You've got to use that manoeuvre strategically, and of course there are only, not every driver's got the skill level yet to actually do that safely. So we see Hardigan get, I'm not sure what happened there, but he slipped right out of the draft and is dropping to the rear of the field.
Roll down and see who's where. We'll try and skip that back to this mid-pack that's sort of formed. The group that's dropped off just off the front of the leaders. hard for us to get a good picture of everyone. They were actually on the back of the lead pack. Let's jump back to Jason Hardigan.
Yeah, it could have been that he actually made a mistake and sort of slid out a little bit, or it could have been the fact that there was a couple of the guys he was up there running with, maybe a couple of guys looked a bit unsteady, so he thought, forget this, I'm going to drop to the back and stay out of trouble. He's been around long enough now that he knows what he's about, so I'd be surprised if it was a mistake unless he got a bit of a weird push from someone.
A few little bits of shuffling going on at the front of the pack. Drew Davison actually has set the fastest lap of the race. He's way back in 23rd. 21st at the moment, actually car 23, and he did a clean lap 48.04, so just slightly out of the group there, and has moved down into the bottom row. You say that, g'day Billy, thanks very much for the like.
Yeah, so that's really sort of, I guess, the fastest lap here, fairly immaterial as far as an indicator of the driver's outright pace. It most likely be the fact that he may have been off the back of the pack a little bit, and he's used the draft to sort of draw back onto the back of that pack, so he's managed to make the fastest lap there. So not really a good indicator of performance, but we'll see where they are at the end of the race, and if he moves his way forward, then he's going to be in a really good position. Still running 2x2 there at the front, and one of the temptations that the drivers often has is if the car in front starts to get a little bit wayward, it's very, very difficult at the speeds they're going to hold perfect lines all the time. And you can see the cars sort of moving around, some guys doing it not intentionally, but other guys are actually moving out of the draft to cool their engines a little bit. But the temptation is, if you're sort of third or fourth in line and the car in front of you starts moving up and down the track, is to try and stick in the draft and try and follow. And that's actually the worst thing to do, because that fog filters even further down the line, with the little bits of delayed reaction time with each individual driver reacting to everybody else. It almost exacerbates the effect at the back of the line, and you really don't want that. So by the time you actually get a little bit further back, people are driving up and down like it's a slalom course. So if you're in a situation like this and you're about 4 or 5 cars back or whatever, if the car in front of you is moving around, you've got to resist that temptation and just hold your line rock steady.
Yeah, I guess these a fair bit given the lack of weight in the back of them as well, even with the tail on it. So
yeah, not so much. I don't think that they're overly front heavy, these things. They're, especially aerodynamically, they're balanced quite well. They spend a lot of time in the wind tunnel with these things, but yeah, certainly I'd imagine that it's got a lot more forward weight bias than say a cup car would. So yeah, certainly can get light in the back end, although probably not as light as you'd think.
So thanks to those who've jumped into the stream and made a few comments as well. G'day Matty and Alana as well. Just watching them move around there, trying to just keep things under control. We've
got one truck running the very high groove there. Looks as though, we've got contact in the middle of the pack, and off they go. And luckily, it was only 2 trucks, because that could have been absolutely enormous. I think it was the number 45 involved in that. I've just got to identify who that was. But I did see the number 45 spearing off to the side of the track.
It was Gary Wellman.
Yeah, Gary Wellman and Paul Jackson.
In the Tundra, so the 231 of Paul Jackson ended up down in pit lane.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. We've stayed green, but it's unfortunate. It looked as though guys just jostling for space that wasn't there, unfortunately. And they're very, very lucky that the rest of the pack's very, very lucky that they sort of speared off to the side there and didn't actually take anybody else with them, because when something goes wrong, sort of mid-pack, front of mid-pack here, it's generally the mother and father of all accidents.
Particularly with this many cars running this close together, so...
Exactly. You often don't... 2 or 3 cars start to get sideways, and all of a sudden you've got absolutely nowhere to go, and you're just relying on luck. So, but speaking of guys who aren't really having any problems, we've got Ryan Jones is still leading, and we've got Hamish Gallagher there, dutifully sitting in behind him in second place, and Aquijo's actually moved up to third there, and the inside line's got a little bit of a push on at the moment. You can actually see Josh Carroll-Walden on the outside lane with Nigel Patton there, just trying to shove him forward, and you can see how closely Carroll-Walden's sitting there on the back of Patton. and he's actually really trying to give him a push there. They're going to try and use a little bit of the side draft to the cars on the inside. They'll probably be a bit closer to that inside lane than that if they want to utilise that to the full. But coming off the turn, they're going to carry the momentum because they are going a little bit faster, having a run around the top, and it looks as though there's actually another truck coming in to join them there on the top line, so we could actually find ourselves with 2x2s again very shortly.
And of course, iRacing during the off-season did an update to improve the side draft in the NASCARs as well. So has anyone noticed that's played a big, had an impact on the way that they've been able to drive these?
It wasn't so much the side draft that they were looking at; it's the aerodynamics between the car and the wall is what they updated. So it's what actually happens is when you run right up close to the wall, there's actually a cushion of air that builds up between the car and the wall, and you can actually ride that cushion to a certain degree. It's almost imperceptible. It's not going to stop you from hitting the wall if you were going to hit it anyway, and it can actually, certainly in a very fast car like an Indy car, can actually interfere with the aerodynamics a little bit and slow you down if you run too close to the wall. It's something that's that aerodynamically sensitive, which is why you'll see in the Indy 500, for example, the cars, they'll come off the turn and then they'll run down the straight directly in the middle because they want to stay away from that wall. So not so much of an issue in a stock car, but it's certainly something that they've keyed in, and just another little bit of realism they've added.
We've been lucky. They've done a fair amount of work over the COVID period and to continue to improve the simulator across a number of the different disciplines. So it's good to see that they continue to add to the realism here.
Yeah, they certainly are. They work very hard. Of course, they've got a contract with NASCAR. We're actually about to see a lead change, I think. We'll see if Patton gets the line first. He does. He's got Josh Carroll-Walden to thank for that. He's got a big push from them. And he's actually got a good few cars up joining him now. Number 34, Kai Sloggett's there. And yeah, they've got a train there. Oh, Patton just trying to move down. A bit early there, son. Just needed to get a bit further ahead.
Touch of the wall there in the background as well. I think it might have been Aaron Aiden Schultz just running a little bit wide up into the top lane there and just up against the wall. Some of the momentum away.
Yeah, that's unfortunate because in these trucks, the condition of your fenders is absolutely vital to the speed that these things get. So if you crinkle up a fender or something like that, it's actually going to hurt you. And it looks as though Patton's going to lead a second consecutive lap there. He's getting a nice big push on the front here. Going to see actually if he might think about moving down. He's already indicated that he wanted to do that once, and but he didn't quite get the job done. If he's going to do it anywhere, he's going to have to get it done sort of on the straight coming off the turn, because that's going to be where his advantage is, running up top like that.
Just had Dwayne Priest ask if it's the limit's 35 each week in this series. I believe that's the case.
That is the case. We've just got Paul Jackson coming out of the pits now, and he's going to try and stay nice and high to keep out the way. But yeah, 35 car field, or truck field, in the truck series, and everyone's going to try and squeeze through here. It looks as though Jackson's doing a good job to stay up top, and that is sketchy whichever way you slice it.
Very sketchy.
But they've done a good job there, and Jackson's actually, hats off to him, because he's done an awesome job to really hold it up there against the wall, which is not an easy thing to do when you've got all these madmen coming through on your inside like that. So yeah, well done to him.
Go out into that, I reckon, but there's probably not too much choice.
No, not really. And unfortunately, if he's unable to hook on the back of this pack, they're going to drive away from him at such a rate that they'll be back around to do the same thing again in a few laps' time. So he's going to really want to try and shield that damage area of his truck from the airflow, and get him behind somebody and try and at least keep up with these guys, even though he is a couple of laps down.
Lucky Dog under yellow flag.
That's right, Lucky Dog. So if you're not involved in the wreck when it comes out, if you're the first car who's off the lead lap when the caution comes out, you will get one lap back. You get a wave around the pace car and be able to come around and join the back of the field again. And we also have green-white checkers. We've got one green-white checker in this as well. So if the caution comes out near the end of the race, and the race would, under normal circumstances, finish under yellow, they added a little bit of extra overtime, a couple of laps, so we can actually get a nice finish as well. So a couple of interesting little rules that they run in stock car racing in the States, and ANZCAR try to mimic that as close as possible.
So 15, just coming up to on the 15th lap. Where are you wanting to be positioned? Are you happy just to be sat in the
middle of this pack here, just towing the line effectively, or are you wanting to be trying to, move up from maybe 2 or 3 cars deep in the field, as we just see a change there as well?
Yeah, I think Ryan Jones there has actually seen the outside lane coming and actually tried to put a block on, and that has not worked at all, because that's just lost in the position. I was about to say where I would want to be at this stage is exactly where Ryan Jones was, which was leading that bottom line. He's led the entire race so far. He's got no one in front of him. If a wreck happens, it's going to happen behind you. But it really does depend on your circumstance as well. Like, any of these drivers in that lead pack at the moment are going to be fairly satisfied with where they're sat. But certainly being on point up the front is certainly where I'd prefer to be at this stage.
And so we've ended up basically 3 wide. So end up with a 3rd lane just popping up in the middle there for a little while until things sort themselves out. But it looks like they've just managed to shuffle their way back to that high line. So
yeah, they've done a good job there. I mean, Ryan Jones, he kind of got out. I think he tried to block that high line as he comes back down in front of Hamish Gallagher now. He tried to block the high line and it didn't work, and he sort of got swamped. But luckily, he got some help in the middle and he was able to push his way back through. And those guys who were sort of on the outside of him, if you look where Patton is now and Josh Carroll-Walden, they've sort of fallen back behind those guys that they were just in front of. 34 there, Kai Sloggett. You've got Reece May in there as well, and Aaron Major up there leading that outside line now.
Just on board with Reece May, you're talking about conditions of fenders, and just in that move where he got stuck in that sort of artificial middle lane, it has given him a little bit of damage there on that left-hand front fender. So earlier about the hope that the fenders stay nice and clean.
Yeah, exactly right. And you can see that perhaps he's not sticking as close to the back of the car in front as he might otherwise do. And that could be just because he's a little bit gun-shy now after that near accident. Or it could also be the fact that he hasn't actually got the pace in that truck anymore to close up on the back of that front 3 there in line. So one of the two. But either way, you can tell that the outside line isn't really... It's coming back a little bit now, but they were really disorganised there for a while. The gaps between them were a bit too big, and the bottom line was sort of stretching out. But now that they're sort of, if they get themselves organised, you can see a bit of a gap forming there in front of Aquijo and behind him as well. That it's actually, you'll see that the closer and more organised these lanes are, the faster each lane will run.
Yep. And
certainly over about 4 or 5 cars in a lane, you don't get any extra speed advantage. It's about as fast as you're going to go, but it really does depend on how well those cars are running. And at the moment, you can see a few gaps there in between the drivers, a bit bigger than you probably want, and it's actually slowing both lanes down at this point.
So with that Major had there, that there's sort of a couple of tenths between him and the car behind him. That will enable them to go quicker as a trio.
No, it'll actually slow them down.
It'll slow them. Okay.
Yeah, it will slow them down. So you can see that top groove there. The 3 trucks in front have sort of broken away with the 555 there at the back of that trio, and that's actually going to slow them down unless they get themselves organised. And now you can see you've got 5 trucks joining in there. It's a little bit nicer looking, and they're going to start to pull up again. But you're not going to... Once they start to get gaps between them, or if there's somebody who's not holding a line particularly well and consistently braking that toe, it will slow down that lane. So leading those lines, you're very much at the mercy of what the guys behind you are doing and how well they're driving.
Very, very educational having you on the stream as always, Ed. There's lots for me to take in there about this. We've had Steve Hoppett jump in and just remark that he's glad to hear you back on the airwaves. So thanks for jumping in, Steve.
Well, if I could hold a candle to Steve Hoppett on the airwaves, I'd be very, very, very happy man indeed. He was a much-loved commentator for ANZCAR for quite a long period of time, and he's also run his own radio show and all sorts of stuff. And he's a very entertaining bloke, very, very good on the mic. And, well, if I'm getting compliments from Steve Hoppett, I'm a very happy man.
Well, he did call him dulcet tone. We'll take it as a compliment.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds like Steve. So, how you going, Steve? Good to have you with us.
Just the 2 cars involved in an incident which actually ended up down in pit lane, so not too much damage done there. We've had all 20 laps so far under green flag conditions.
Which is very surprising. Very surprising. I expected there to be more carnage than this. We've only had that one little incident. So we'll see what it gets like a bit towards the end of the race when people get a bit racier and they start to get a bit more desperate. But I'd like you to take a look a little way back in the pack. Just take your eyes away from this lead pack for a while and have a look on the inside row, way back down there in, I believe, about 22nd or 21st position. And you've got Luke Trahere, Chris Purnell and Michael Skurlock, 3 teammates, all lined up. Now, those guys will be working together. You have to work with your teammates on a super speedway like this. And the fact that they've managed to arrange themselves, and look who else they're around. They've got quality drivers either side. You've got Danny G there in front of Michael Skurlock. You've got Jason Hardigan in behind them as well. Those guys are going to go forward. They are just biding their time at the moment. They are not driving flat out. They are consciously avoiding getting involved in that front pack as it sits at the moment. But that group, if it sticks together, will be running at the front at the end of the race without question.
Yeah, I must admit, I had been keeping an eye on it. Obviously, I'm very, very familiar with Sam Luke certainly from last year on the opportunities that I had to commentate when he was running. And Chris and Luke, from my time in the oval stuff, but I know that Chris is extremely strong here, and Luke's been working with him as well. So new colours for them tonight, but great looking trucks. And I had seen that all 3 of them were together, and I thought there's nothing coincidental about that.
Absolutely not.
Started a lot further down the field than they're running at the moment, and as you said, just biding their time to make the charge when required. And I'm sure there'll be a time where they, to use a phrase from a popular movie, drop the hammer.
Yeah, I mean, don't be surprised at all to see if these guys are still running 2x2 out front, which I imagine whatever the front pack is and whoever it consists of is going to be running 2x2 towards the end of the race. Don't be surprised to see those guys get up in the third line, up by the wall, and just rip the top between the lot of them and drive around the outside of everybody right up to the front. Because I've seen them do it before, and it's a fairly standard move when you get some quality back there working together. And I imagine that's exactly what they're going to do. 20 laps to go. That's my call. They're going to make the move.
20 laps to go. The craziness starts.
Potentially. So very, very clean. As we mentioned at the moment, Ryan Jones still leading the way. Had that little blip where he fell back, but he's recovered quite well. Got a nice push, and he's recovered quite well to the lead. So he's certainly looking at the extra point for the most laps led tonight. So that's really good for the start of his championship. But we do wonder who the eventual winner of this race is going to be. They're almost in a holding pattern at the moment. No one's really wanting to take any big risks, drive too far forward, drive too aggressively, try to split the lanes up the middle yet. They all want to get to the end of the race. So it's good to see. It's good that they're using their heads. There's nothing worse than sitting here watching 30-odd laps of pace car action. We don't want to see that. So, but pretty soon, I mean, we're getting up to lap 24, and we're going to be looking at green flag pit stops pretty soon. And that, getting on and off pit road, peeling out of a pack like this, and trying to go onto pit road at racing speed is one of the trickiest things that you can do in a stock car. And I know in a cup car, you're kind of looking around about sort of just under 40 laps worth of fuel. Well, we're on lap 24 at the moment. I'm fairly sure the trucks do have a slightly smaller fuel tank. I could be wrong on that, but sooner or later, if we don't get a caution, we're going to see some guys peeling towards pit road. And what did we say earlier on about Paul Jackson? He wasn't able to hold on to the back of that pack, and here he is going through that hell again.
Absolutely. Just had some commentary back from the guys. Sorry about the mic here, guys. I'm on my emergency mic. The headset gave up just as we were getting into qualifying, so if I'm a little bit quiet, it's not deliberate. I'll try and just play around with it to get it up and running. But to be honest, you really need to hear Ed anyway. He's the man with the knowledge. I'm just here to flick some switches and play with the appropriate knobs on the commentary stream. So.
There's a one-liner there, mate. I'm not touching it.
It was there, and I did it deliberately. I've just dropped it in there on purpose, so you can.
Low-hanging fruit, mate. I'm not taking it.
And that's what I was. That's what I was doing. So apologies, I'm a little quiet. I'll try and speak up a little bit and stay close to the mic.
All right, so having a look, you can just see here that front 3 on the bottom line really working together well. They're nice and close to each other. Aquijo just poking his nose out there. I imagine his engine's starting to get a little bit hot because he has been tucked up behind Gallagher very closely for a couple of laps there now. But a bit of a revival coming there on the outside as that group gets itself sorted out. And we've got Kai Sloggett, who's actually had some really good form in the past on super speedways and the faster tracks. He had a really, really good run at Michigan in the Cup Series last year, where he came within, I think, about half a lap of getting second place. So on the faster tracks, he is a force, and not too surprised to see him up the front. He just needs a nice, good push, and we might see him leading some laps as well.
Yeah, and Reece May obviously trying to give him that push, just jumping right up onto the back of him there as well. So, and behind him is Aaron Major in that top lane. It's still, as you say, a little bit messy there. We're just getting in and out.
Makes the move down. They've actually done that. What we were talking about, Kai Sloggett making the move down. He got the push that he needed from Reece May. Reece may be happy with that. He may be not. But Ryan Jones does not look like he wants to sit behind anybody at all. And Sloggett comes across to squeeze Ryan Jones. And Jones making the move back around for the front. So he's just dropped back in and overlapped again. I'm not sure how they've managed to do that, but that's a hell of a push from May if that's the case.
May
I think
just
Reece
slots
May
himself right back in there.
I think Reece May might be the best pusher in the field the way he's done that. He's just pushed Sloggett to the lead, and 5 seconds later he's gone and pushed Jones and himself back out past Sloggett. So they've done it, and Ryan Jones back in front.
And you did mention before about some teams. Anything at the front there that we need to be aware of? Any of these guys in teams together?
Not that I am aware of. I know that Daniel Stevens there in the number 3 truck in the outside lane, he is part of Middle Finger Racing, and that is the same team that Kai Sloggett drives for. They are separated at the moment, unfortunately, so they're not really able to work together. There are some other team combinations out there. I am still learning all the new drivers and teams as they've been announced. There's been a lot of movement on the off-season, quite a few new guys coming in as well. And I have to say, the new guys absolutely holding their own out there. Haven't seen any silly mistakes, no bonehead moves. Everyone's out there running real clean, so it's great to see.
So as you say, we're expecting a flurry of activity in pit lane very, very soon. I was going to say it's probably Kai Sloggett's probably going to be desperate, having run up the front for most of the time. So watch on him to see if he's going to jump in first.
Well, Kai Sloggett wasn't at the front for long. Ryan Jones.
Ryan Jones, my apologies.
Yeah, he will. He'll be getting the worst fuel economy of the lot, so he'll have to dive down. Hopefully, he's got a friend there that's going to go with him. Hopefully, somebody else is sort of in the same boat. Because the last thing you want to do is pit under green by yourself. Because when you come back out, we're going 3 wide here at the front. Oh no, it's just Sloggett having a look through the middle. They've sorted themselves out again. It looked like he may have had a run there and be making a look at the lead of the race potentially, but. Yeah, we're going to see pit stops inside the next 10 laps. Absolutely, I imagine. I'm not 100% sure on the field range of these trucks, but it shouldn't be. Just watching Nigel Patton kind of get down, trying to have a look between as well. It's starting to ramp up. There's probably guys who are looking at the field right now and they want to get in that bottom lane because they can't pit from the top. You can't drive through the truck that's down there on your inside. So they're going to have to figure out a way to get down, and we must be getting close to pit stops now because look at the pack. Look at how so many cars have dropped down into that bottom lane. So we must be getting close to pit stops. The trucks are getting themselves in position to be able to peel off into that pit road.
It just gets a little bit messy there.
And have we got a taker already?
Hamish
Gallagher's gone already?
Yeah, he's jumped in. He is in pit lane. So Hamish Gallagher first to jump into pit lane here this evening.
Yeah, Danny G's gone with him. Those two are teammates as well. I didn't mention it because they were too far apart to really be working together. And I'm a little bit concerned about them being this far apart coming into pit road as well. I'm not sure if they're going to be able to hook up on the exit. So maybe keep an eye on that. But we can see all of these trucks. Everyone's trying to make their way down towards the bottom row now. You're going to see the guys on the outside really desperately trying to force themselves a hole to get into that bottom lane. Because if you get caught out there and you run out of fuel, or everybody pits without you and you're forced to pit alone, you're done, so long as it stays green.
So there is a reasonable gap between the two of them still on the exit of pit lane. So we'll see how that works there. I did just happen upon as well. We've
got another pack just diving for the pit road now as well. We've got another big pack.
So we've got Jones, we've got Sloggett. Fair few of them jumping into pit lane at the same time out of that lead pack.
Yeah, it's a lot. We've got about 10 trucks come down there all together. So they're going to want to try and got a bit of a lock up there from Sloggett. Does he miss his pit box? No. He has to reverse. That's going to cost him. He has to reverse a long way, Sloggett. He's still reversing. So he's going to pop out behind a lot of guys. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to pick up the pack or if they're all going to take off without him. But that's not what he wanted at all.
As you say, just on 10 cars or so, 10 trucks jumping in.
Yeah, roughly that. And we'll probably see the rest of them coming through turn 4 right now. So we may even see A lot of trucks coming in together again on this lap, and look who's ripping the top. Look out there, who's ripping the top.
Yep. That's what I was just jumping on there. They used the toe very well there, and right at the top lane, managed to keep running and gain probably a fair few positions on the way through there as well.
Yeah, that's right. They're going to have to come down the lane, though, like everybody else. So, we've got Skurlock in front at the minute. We've got a few cars sort of a lap down, a few guys sort of coming out of the pits. Once this sorts itself out, I mean, they're going to be pushing as hard as they can to try and get a really good in-lap as much as they can. Look at the way Purnell's pushing Skurlock there. He is right on his bumper, actually physically pushing him down the track. And the reason they're doing that is exactly the same way as when you're doing an in-lap or something in road racing. You want to be able to come out ahead of your competition. They're trying to gain positions right now doing that. And you see the gap that they've made over the trucks behind. Here they come, down the pits together. Just about everybody follows their lead. They would have been communicating, what side do you want? I'm going to go far left. I'm going to go far right. You don't want to crash into your teammates on the entrance to pit lane. And it is really, really easy to do. As the 43 just comes across the front there of Aquijo, I don't think it was contact, but it was mighty close. And Skurlock's overshot his pit bay as well.
Pit bay,
yeah, which is not going to help him. So we'll see where these guys come out. And Stephen Williams, he's out there on the track on his own. He's gone further than everybody else. And this is not going to be good for him because right now he's not in a pack. He is lapping slower than everyone. So that is a problem for Stephen Williams.
I expect to see him drop into pit lane this time around.
Okay, so the crank car's coming out together. It looks as though Josh Carroll-Walden slotted in there together. So these guys are coming out in a nice pack. So they will have... That's worked out for them. It hasn't hurt Skurlock too much. So that's worked out well. Stephen Williams I'm a bit worried about though because this lap on his own, that lap on his own is going to hurt him.
Just waiting to see how this adjusts itself with basically the whole pack having done the stops required. Hamish Gallagher in pit lane, Daniel Stevens as well as Matty Raymond just jumping in. Stephen Williams has jumped into pit lane too, so that is the whole field will make their way through.
Yeah, Danny G leading that line now as well. He's leading a line. He's got Ryan Jones, the former leader, in behind him. Aaron Dillon in there behind him as well. He's got the momentum and he's pulled right up onto the back of the crank cars. It looks as though he's looking at forming a second lane there on the outside. And, well, experience shows, doesn't it? Because look who's come to the front. Let's watch the times reset as they come across the line. But everybody that you're seeing up there, bar one or two exceptions, that is all experience.
Absolutely. I was just going to say the Crank Esports guys have managed to go from mid-pack 20s at the start of the pit lane cycle, and they're now right up the front. So this is where it's going to be on. We obviously expect to see one more stop if it's a green flag running before the end of this one.
Yeah, we certainly will. And Danny G's actually taken over the lead of this race. Now, remember, when he came down with Hamish Gallagher, he was miles behind Gallagher. We didn't think he was going to be able to get out with anybody. Well, he has. He's managed to hook up with Jones and Aaron Dillon, and that's propelled him straight to the front. So Danny G now leading the laps. And looks as though Ryan Jones, we mentioned before, he hates being behind people, does not like it at all by the looks of it. He's pulled out again to try and lead that outside lane. And look who he's got behind him, the master pusher himself there in the number 67, Reece May. Gave him a great push to the front before. We're going to see it similar again.
And it's actually a good point, just been picked up by David Douglas. The reason Hamish Gallagher's not there is he's actually got a drive-through penalty, so he's now round at the back of the field.
Right, okay, so that must have been for pit lane speed or something like that, because I certainly couldn't see anything else wrong, so he may have just come in a little bit hot on his way into the lane, and that actually is Gallagher is about to get gobbled up by this pack.
So it certainly has shaken things up.
And here's Ryan Jones getting pushed to the front again by Reece May. I tell you what.
Oh no,
big wreck, the 555 around. I think
no, and there's a few
Purnell may have been involved in that as well. Big wreck. I'm not sure if you're able to get a replay on that, but it looks as though Aaron Major, it started somewhere around him. It looks as though Purnell may have actually moved up.
Yeah, he did.
I'm not sure why he moved up, but he moved up into the side of Major, which in turn has turned Dillon. Yeah, Josh Carroll-Walden in there, Slogger in there. Had Skurlocks on his roof, so that has taken out a good few cars. And Skurlock sliding down the track, sparks going everywhere. And that is, I tell you what, that is bad news for a lot of people, but that is fantastic news for Hamish Gallagher. Absolutely. He was about to go a lap down, and now he's going to be right back on the back of the pack.
Only good news out of that for Skurlock is he did manage after the slide to end up flipping back onto his roof. So
yeah, just having a look at some of the damage report out there, trying to give a bit of a sit rep to you guys about what the go is. Quijo billowing smoke. There's another truck there blowing a lot of smoke. Looks like one of the crank cars. It's not looking too good. Skurlock, that is, actually blowing a lot of smoke out the back of that truck. That's going to be him done for the night as well, really, in terms of the race win. So unfortunate there, and I'm not really sure what would have caused Purnell to drive up the track like that. He knows what he's about. He's been doing this a long time, so I can only assume maybe there was a checkup or something like that in front that caused him to take evasive action, or perhaps just a simple mistake. I'm just watching. Okay, all right, I think I see what happened. Aaron Dillon hit the apron, slowed down a little bit, and I think Purnell's kind of pulled out and unfortunately tagged the back of Major there. So unfortunate, but one of those things that happens when everyone's running so close together.
yeah, so we just slowed it down on screen there, and yeah, you can definitely see that there's just that little bit of movement, and unfortunately it's caught Chris out. And then we've ended up with this damage up on the high line. There's not a lot any of them could have done about that to avoid it.
No, once you get that many cars spinning around, it's literally luck of the draw. Sometimes you manage to thread the needle and look like an absolute genius, and sometimes there's just nothing you can do. So unfortunate for those guys. We did say that we might get the big one. It has come almost exactly on half distance, and expect to see a few guys coming down now, probably to top off with fuel. They won't be able to get to the end, but it's certainly going to give them a little bit more scope to wait for another caution. So you're probably going to see most of the guys on track run down the pit lane, just top that fuel up. You probably won't get too many taking tyres, but I imagine you'll see most of the fielding.
Just trying to run back quickly while we can. We've got some time here. And just have a little bit of a look at the lead up to this one. Just see it there. There's just that little tap. Afterwards comes all of the wreckage.
Yeah, just having a look at the guys in the pit lane at the moment, and there's more there than I could possibly mention in the time I have available. There's a lot of guys in there with damage. You got the 03 Bradley Allison. It looks like he's picked up a bit of damage in that as well. That's unfortunate for him. He's another one who came very close to winning a cup race at this track. Middle of last year, actually, the July race, I believe it was, came close. And then I believe he had it coming together with Kai Sloggett, actually. They were both in the front of the field together. We're seeing a lot of guys coming out of the pits now. So for these guys, it's going to be a matter of who's got the less damage, and whether or not guys who haven't got too much damage can sort of hook up together and push along at a sort of reasonable pace. But we're going to see what they've got left, how much damage they're carrying, and how bad it's going to be for them. And if they have the guys who made the good moves and managed to be ahead of that wreck, well, that's just that's good luck for them.
I was going to say, there's been obviously a few winners, as there always is, out of crashes like that. So Luke Trahare's moved himself up into third after that one as well. So, yeah, a few changes throughout the field. We'll obviously run you through where everyone is at when it gets back underway, but there always, as usual, be things.
Yeah, I'm a bit surprised, actually, that some of the leaders, Danny G, Ryan Jones and the like, didn't elect to pit, because what that's going to do is not give them the range later on. So, of course, the more laps that you can run, yes, they can't get to the end of the race, but the more laps that you can run, the more chances are that you're going to be able to get a caution in that period and come down. Whereas if you don't have the fuel in your tank, you may be forced to pit a little bit earlier and come down and have to potentially pit under green, which can result in you going a lap down. So I'm a bit surprised, unless I missed it while I was watching something else. I don't think I did.
No, you didn't. They've only been through the lane once. So anyone from first with Daniel all the way down to Daniel Stevens in ninth have only done one. So Cam James in 10th, the first car to have done 2 stops.
Okay, well, that's very good for Cam James. If things play out in his favour, he may find himself in the box seat later on. But we've got a few new faces up there, which is good to see as well. We've got Trahere there. Cade Donnelly's up there. He did run a bit last year. Brody Masters, Cam James, as we mentioned. So a few of the newer faces. They're not all total rookies, but a few of the newer faces there at the front. So it's good to see them getting a bit of a shot there. And then on the other side of the coin, you've got Norman Clark, who's been around since the very, very beginning in ANZCAR, and he's out there running around in 6th position at the moment.
A name that even I am familiar with. So as a rookie myself to the ANZCAR ranks, but yeah, Norm's been across a couple of the streams that we've looked after.
Yeah, very, very successful rally driver back in South Africa. Factory driver for BMW, factory driver for Alpha. He's got some great stories if you ever get the chance to talk to him. But the pace truck is off, and we're about to go green again. And Ryan Jones looks as though he's dropped the hammer now. Everyone's going to try and go with him. Traher, not as quick on the throttle as he probably would have liked, but he will close that gap up quite easily. But what that's allowed them to do is it's allowed those front two to just pull away. Is Danny G going to try and slot down in front of Ryan Jones? He does not. The 22, Aiden Schultz, tries to have a little look there, not much point in that, so they're going to settle themselves out and they're running 2x2 again. We're going to see a little bit of jostling back in the pack because there's going to be some guys there that have got more damage who are in front of guys who have got less damage, so they'll get themselves sorted out and hopefully most of them will be able to stick on the back of this lead pack as Danny G makes a big chop down in front of Ryan Jones to lead this one.
I was going to say, actually looking at the back of Luke Traher's car there, he copped a little bit of damage out of that one. You can see the bobtail on the back of the truck there, not in all the best condition. So what sort of effect will that have on the way that car drives?
Look, not too much, I shouldn't think, looking at that. It looks like there's a bit of a bend in the spoiler, so he might not have the rear grip that he had before. He might be cost a little bit of straight line speed. I don't think it's going to be too severe, though. It shouldn't affect him too much. And right now you can see Ryan Jones up there, and he's pretty much working alone with Danny G. And what that means is he hasn't got any help to help him pull out and make a move. So we know how much Ryan Jones is like to lead lanes in this particular race, but at the moment he's got no option but to do some pushing because he's got no one there right on his hammer to help him make an overtaking move, even if he wanted to. And so they're just starting to gap the field a little bit. Just when I say that, we're talking a couple of tenths maybe. Yeah, we've got some guys running 2x2 behind. Looks as though we've got a bit of a top line trying to sort itself out as we just see Schultz try to dive down the bottom lane. That's going to leave Norman Clark up there, but it looks as though people are abandoning that lane en masse and trying to get down the bottom as Ryan Jones just takes a look out of the airflow. Not sure if he's looking to make a move there or potentially just pull one motor down.
Just to give you a quick rundown, Equisio, Finlay, Skurlock, Dylan, Taylor and Wellman cars out. In fact, my apologies, Mick Taylor is back out and running.
Okay, well, yeah, unfortunate for those guys, but yeah, the big one was going to happen. Oh, it looks as though Danny G just caught a bit of a crooked bump from Ryan Jones there, and it's just sent him across the track a little bit. He's recovered it though. Danny, far too experienced to fall victim and spin off for something like that, but it looked as if that touch was a little bit crooked, and he'll probably want Ryan, maybe just be getting on the radio saying, Ryan, just try and hit me dead centre if you're going to do that.
Things the circuit guys don't need to worry too much about.
No, certainly not if you drive an open wheeler.
No, definitely not.
We have bumpers, we use them. You see the front two just making a bit of a break there. I'm not sure, there don't seem to be too many guys at the moment that are able to do it. I don't think it's a lack of pace from the guys behind. I just don't think they've got themselves sorted out enough. I mean, if you look at that top line there, we've now got some quality moving up there. We've got Norman Clark's there, Daniel Stevens is there. I think I just saw Reese May getting up there as well, or is he just dropping back to the bottom? But yeah, there are trucks trying to get that outside lane to work. Schultz is leading that lane at the moment, but they're going to have to really get themselves, they're going to have to take opportunity here and get themselves nice and bunched up and organised, because as we see Ryan Jones pull out of the draft, that's not going to work because he's got absolutely no help out there. Although he has got a really nice run at the moment, he may actually lead that lap.
Oh, no.
Oh, we got a wreck. That's Schultz and whoever in the 17, Roger Clark.
Yeah,
so that's Roger Clark and Aiden Schultz there, and that's caused another big one. So it's all kicked off towards the end of this race. I'll just go back and have a quick look at where that one all started. But we had Roger Clark there on the inside, and he was actually an innocent victim because the car behind the red truck, Cam James, has actually moved out. He's tapped Aiden Schultz, in turn has spun into Roger Clark, and that has just taken the field. Dan Stevens, Norman Clark involved in that as well. Lots of guys carrying damage. So once again, the guys up the front got to be very happy to be there.
Yeah, we're just seeing that now with, I believe it's Aiden Schultz, who managed to just surf along on top of a couple of other cars throughout that one. It looks like he's managed to survive it somehow, but cars everywhere in this wreck as we just watched through the replay there. So plenty affected. It's not really going to help too many of the guys from the big accident in a little earlier on either, so we'll watch to see the pit activity. I wonder again if those leaders that you were talking about before will jump into pit lane now.
They'll have to. Take a look at Aiden Schultz if you can cut Aiden Schultz. That truck has got the worst case of crabbing I've ever seen.
Yeah, he's on screen now.
It is absolutely diagonal.
We're just watching the full replay of his part of the accident, and there's plenty of smoke coming out of the back of that thing too, so he may well be in for a long balance of the evening.
Yeah, that's Cactus. He's done. But looks as though Ryan Jones, did he take the lead again? He's sitting out next to the pace truck at the moment. I've got Denny G showing in the lead, but that may have just been the way they crossed the line. No, it looks like Denny taking back that spot now. I imagine these guys are going to have to come down the lane. It's still really sort of how many laps we've got to go. It's maybe they can get to the end. I don't think there'll be too many people at the moment who'd be wanting to lead lanes. I think most guys are going to be wanting to run partial throttle back in the pack, but surely these guys are going to come down and get fuel this time. I can't imagine they won't.
So Troy Davison should be the one to get the lucky dog on that situation. He was the lead car a lap down, so he should get a wave by.
Yes, he probably will do, so long as he wasn't involved in that wreck at all. Ryan Jones actually staying out. That's an odd decision. That's an odd call. I can't say that I fully understand that one, but we'll see if it works for him.
And interestingly enough, Aiden Schultz still getting around as well in that very second-hand looking truck there, so that will not last all that long into the evening, you would think.
Yeah, definitely. It's and even if he does get it back out there, it's going to be so far off the pace. And we had a look at Danny G there. He actually had to drive through the pit boxes of some other cars as he's coming out of the pit lane, and their trucks, black truck there, I think it was Hardigan there, moving for his pit box, and Danny quite smartly just driving around and through and out, and lives on to fight another day. But we're going to have to just take a minute to take stock. I can tell you that Ryan Jones is going to be leading, provided he doesn't come to the lane next time around. That could be something he's doing, actually, pitting one lap later, because he knows fuel's going to be very, very marginal. So he may be playing a bit of a clever strategy here, allowing himself to drop to the back of the pack, pitting one lap later than everybody else, have one extra lap of fuel, or it's really half consumption running under pace car. So potentially half a lap of extra fuel, which could kind of make all the difference at the end. We'll see if he comes in or whether he doesn't. I'm going to be interested to see what he does.
Yeah, and Dave Douglas making a good point here. Obviously, it's safest to be as far out in front as you can at the moment, given what's going on in the mid-pack there. So maybe just trying to make sure that he stays right out in front, as you say, with that extra lap.
Yeah, definitely. And when it comes to running these kind of tracks, Dave Douglas is a man I would listen to. I was a teammate of his a couple of years ago, and he knows how to work the draft and how to work the pack better than most that I've ever run with. So he's definitely worth listening to if you see his comments pop up.
Yeah, and another thing he's just saying here as well is that he may be able to make his way home on fuel from here if there is one more yellow, so maybe banking on that.
It's a bit of a gamble, but Jones does not come down the pit lane, so it looks as though that is a gamble he's taking. Certainly a big gamble just for the sake of leading a lane and going to be using that extra fuel and so on. So, yeah, I'm surprised, but let's see how it works. Let's see how it pays off.
So just trying to recap where everybody is at the moment, just working out who's actually out of the race as opposed to in pit lane getting repaired. There are a few, of course, in pit lane: Aiden Schultz, Daniel Stevens, Nathan Rollick, Kai Slowick, Aaron Major, and Patton. All the victims, I think, as a consequence of that last accident. So we will see whether or not they get back out after the caution period ends.
Yeah, definitely. And so there's a couple of new faces there still out the front. Cade Donnelly, as we mentioned, not a completely new driver, but certainly one of the less experienced guys here, sitting up there in third position. So he's got a big job there, pushing the leader on the inside line. Also taking a look there at Ruben Phelps. We haven't talked too much about him tonight in the 06 truck. And he's sitting up there quite well now in P6, third place on the outside line. And he's a guy I've been keeping a little bit of an eye on. He's done quite well in some of the other races, non-ANZCAR races I've seen him drive. So I did expect to see him factor in at some point in this series. I didn't expect it to be in the very first race, but here he is running P6. So let's see how he gets on.
Unfortunately, Roger Clark and Chris Purnell out of the race as well, so bad luck to those two drivers.
Yeah, it looks as though Josh Carroll-Walden's been out of the server and just reconnected as well. So, he's certainly a long way down the order. We saw him pick up damage earlier on as well. I think it may have even been that first wreck. All right, we've got the lights out in the pace truck. It is about to jump in. It's a much smaller field than we started with, although there are still some guys catching up to the back of this one. And pace truck off. It's on Ryan Jones now to lead them away. He gasses it. Donnelly gasses it. Danny G gasses it as well, and we're going to see everybody who's still got roughly straight panels probably pulling away from the rest of them at this point, I think. But let's keep in mind as well, Danny G has got his new teammate for this season, Hamish Gallagher, right up behind him. So now those two guys have managed to hook up together. They will not be leaving one another. They are going to work together from now as long as they possibly can.
Must admit that Ruben Phelps' car, a pretty snazzy looking design there as well. So keep an eye out on that one, as you mentioned. There's people trying to form that second lane. We've not a great.
Sorry, we've just actually seen the Mitch cars drop down there in front. So see the 24 there and the 13. Teammates, of course, they pushed each other. Gallagher gave Danny G a great big push. Remember, he was nearly a lap down after that penalty earlier on. Gave Danny G a big push, managed to clear Ryan Jones, who wasn't getting a lot of help there on the inside. And now Ryan pulling out, trying to make the outside lane work. No one wants to go with him. But we have Mitch Motorsports trucks first and second.
Troy Davison, the biggest benefactor of that incident. He's back on the lead lap, just trying to catch up to the field, of course. With the gap he's got, may be a victim to going another lap down, but we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, it looks like we've got one there on the outside as well. Luckily for him, the pack's largely single file at the moment, so he's doing a good job there. Just needs to, all you need to do in that scenario is just look at those dotted lines there on the track, stay above that white line, and generally everybody will get around you, so provided they're only 2 wide, not 3 wide, which can never see. It looks as though we've got Hardigan there on the outside trying to make something happen. Doesn't look like he's got too many takers wanting to go with him either. So he's probably going to have to pull back in at some stage. But at some point, if you want to win this race, if you want to move forward, if everyone's running that low line, you've got to be the one, pull out there, try and make something happen. And unfortunately, it didn't happen there for him. But at some point, and I imagine that when it happens, Ryan Jones is going to have something to do with it. Everyone's going to pull out and try and run past on the outside.
As you've said, Ryan Jones not really wanting to sit in anyone else's draft for too long this evening, preferring to lead one of these 2 rows of cars or streams of cars. So he is just sitting there biding his time, but as you say, it won't be too long. He just needs someone to go with him.
Yeah, he does. And who's he got behind him at the moment? He's got Ruben Phelps, who he hasn't really worked with there. He's got Donnelly, who he hasn't really worked with yet. But look back behind, the 67 of May. Those two have worked together so far. So I imagine that if we see Ryan Jones pull out of the pack, I imagine if anybody goes with him, it'll be May that pulls out with him, and they're going to try and get a run to go on the outside.
Michael Shaw moving up into 8th position as well. It's his highest running for this evening.
Yeah, started a bit of a way back, but yeah, he's moved his way up. It's actually helped out a few of those guys who've done that. And we've actually got out there in P12, trying to make a move on the outside at the moment, Carl Whitty. He's still going, and if anybody said that name before, he's got Hardigan right up there behind him, actually. But he's our Cup Series commentator. He does a lot of commentary for ANZCAR, has done. And it looks as though we're now getting Jason Hardigan, Carl Whitty, and Norman Clark trying to run around the outside. So Carl, he's still got a clean truck out there, and he's been the bold man to try and make something happen on the outside. And yeah, well, look, this is where the outside line's coming from. Ryan Jones has pulled out, and he's got absolutely no help out there at all. He's going to be relying on the side draft to try and keep up until potentially somebody's able to get out there and help him. But look, there's a nice gap there at the bottom. Is he going to take the temptation, drop back in? Yes, he is. He doesn't want to fall any further back. That didn't work. Next time it might.
Interesting that Phelps didn't go with him there. Cade Donnelly right up behind him. They would have made it for a good trio to try and get that move to work to all of their benefit, but not to be.
Yeah, what I've seen so far of those two, just as they've been racing, they seem a little bit cautious in terms of pushing people. Certainly, Donnelly wasn't very close up behind Jones on that restart, and it could just be that they want to be a bit careful and cautious and make sure they get to the end of the race and protect what's a very good position. So it could be that they just don't want to risk that, or it could be that they're biding their time until later on.
Well, moving around there, just having another look, seeing whether or not it might be worth his while. Just pulling back in.
He's trying to encourage guys to go with him. So when he's pulling out like that, he's trying to encourage. He's saying to the guys behind, "Come on, guys, come with me. Let's go. Let's get around these guys." And I wonder if he's aware that Reece May is actually back there a couple of cars back, because they've worked together before. And I think if he does pull out and actually make a real run at it, I reckon May will go with him. That's certainly. what I've been thinking and what I continue to think.
6 to go here. Of course, Traher will be probably looking to get something done as well if he can, even with the damage on his car. As Jones does pull out again. So,
and who's going? Looks like Donnelly's going to go. Is May going to go with him? Doesn't look like it at this stage. Looks like we've just got that 2-truck run there on the outside. 2 trucks versus 3 there. Oh, Donnelly abandons him, decides to pull out of it. So wasn't that keen only running 2 trucks out there, but May's got to pull out. Surely he's going to pull out and run with Jones there on the outside. They've been so successful with it earlier in the race. He's got to, surely he's got to.
Still sitting down in that lower lane.
Look, it's very close there with Phelps. Phelps just drives him up the track. That could be a mistake, or it could just be a little bit of, you're a bit close here, son, just push off. So it could be a little bit of that too.
Does of course get May a lot closer to him, so it may work out to pay itself back. Unfortunately, Traher joins him.
Traher's joined up with Jones. Yeah, he's going to need more guys than that, though. He's going to need more trucks with him on the outside to make that work. But sooner or later, these guys, if they've got any ideas that they're going to win this race, they can't be conservative. They can't be sitting back there just going, oh, yeah, it'll open up, it'll all work out in the end. You've got to make something happen. Oval racing, just super speedway racing, is a bit like life. If you want something to happen, you have to go out there and make it happen. And just sitting there isn't going to get that done. So if those guys are happy with their high position, they just want to safely finish where they are, that's great strategy, that's fine, that's their decision. But if you want to win the race, you've got to be getting up there with those top 2.
It is pushing with Traher behind Jones. It's helping a lot. He's moved up into second now. So someone's surely got to jump out and join that now. Traher pushing him along there. So they're working together nicely.
Yeah, you've got Hamish Gallagher there as well. He is tucked right up behind his teammate, giving the best push he possibly can. He won't be able to keep doing that because when you do that, you get that close and the engine temps just rise and rise and rise and rise and rise. And eventually you have to pull out. We've got a car here that's going, he's just wisely got off the track there. He was way off the pace of the guys who were coming up behind him. So that's probably saved us an absolute disaster there. But as we've seen, those top 2 trucks have not got any friends up there. And no one's popping out to help them, so they're just going to. So that bottom line is just going to keep on going past them like a slow-moving train until somebody else gets up there and gives them a hand. I'm really surprised it hasn't been May. They were so successful before,
and he's right there.
And he's right there. So I'm not sure why he's not doing it, but maybe he's like, this is the best place for me at this point in time, and that's his decision. But if as successful as those boys were working together before, I'm surprised they're not giving it another crack.
But Dave's just saying that he's pretty confident that because of how broken up the bottom is, that top two cars in the top lane might be able to do something. So
yeah, look, it really depends. It really depends on the guys in 3rd and 4th there, as we mentioned before, who weren't getting overly close to the 2 in front. The 2 in front, Gallagher and Danny G, they are working really hard, closing up, pushing, and really working hard to make speed. The guys that are sitting there sort of 3rd or 4th in line, Phelps and Donnelly, they're not really... They're getting a bit closer now, but they haven't historically been really pushed up behind, so they're not really helping. They're just kind of along for the ride at that point.
Brody Masters has jumped onto that top train, so...
Yeah, he has too. So he's pulled up there, so we'll see if they manage to get themselves organised, what they're able to do. But at the moment, the bottom lane is definitely the one that's looking the safest. But like we said, if you want to move forward, get on that outside line, make a push. You've got to make it happen.
Phelps is getting a little bit loose there as well, so a risk for the guys in that top lane. Around a fair bit. Not what you'd want to be seeing when you're between him and the wall.
No, definitely not. The one thing that you want when you're on the outside is the guys on your inside to be holding that bottom lane properly. You don't want them moving up around. And I'm pretty sure that anybody who spent any time racing on these types of tracks it's happened sometime where somebody's bobbled up off the bottom and just taken you in the door. And it's just a risk. Going to the outside is a bit riskier than the bottom.
So not too much gain yet at the moment for Ryan Jones. Does just move up slightly into 3rd position, but needing to still do the work.
Yeah, we've got Hardigan up there, and he's pushing up behind Norman Clark at the moment. And they're trying to get a little bit of a run of their own going. They're probably a little bit far back to be gaining any kind of benefit. As we have a look now, that second line on the at the front, moving right up level almost with Danny G. But I'm not sure if that duo of Norman and Hardigan together are going to be able to make it happen or not. They're certainly trying, and they do appear to be moving forward a little bit, so they might be picking up some draft off the back of them, and we'll be able to draw up to them, perhaps.
And Steve makes a good point as well in the chat, just saying that anyone really behind sort of 6th position or anyone from Donnelly back should be jumping into that top lane, try and make something happen. Just as we're talking about that, Hardigan is they are catching.
They are.
So they are going to probably jump onto the back and make this a 5-car train in that top lane. Gap there's closed significantly over the last couple of laps, so that will certainly help as well.
Yeah, it certainly will. But the main deciding factor about who's going to actually take the lead here comes down to the 2 trucks that are second in both of those lines. They're doing the pushing. You can't really do too much in the way of pushing when you're back further than that. You've really got to just stick in your line and stick nice and close, but you can't push. Whereas the guys who are second in line can do the pushing. And Ryan Jones, he's done it. He's dropped right down there. So he got a nice bump from Gallagher there. Not Gallagher, from Traher there on the outside. And he's abandoned his mate, but he's dropped back down into the lead of the race. As we got, that was close. Was it Masters in the 2 there, running right up to the wall? That would have given Norman and Jason a heart attack. But got a nice 5-car train at the top now. We've got Traher leading that line. We've got Masters there, who probably needs to close in a little bit on them. We've got Norman Clark, Hardigan, and I think I saw Carl Withy out there with them at some stage as well. So that could be a 5-car train.
Yeah, just on the back. It's down, dropped down.
Yeah, he's moved down again. Yeah. So Traher making push for the lead. He's really going to rely on Masters to give him a good shove here, the same way as he's just given to Ryan Jones. And meanwhile, the 2 Mitch Motorsports trucks there, second and third in that bottom lane, they're going to be sitting there sort of wondering what to do. There's not a lot you can do at this point. Does Danny G sort of pull out in front of Traher if he can and try and get that push? Does he want to leave his teammate? I don't think he does want to leave his teammate at this point in the race. Maybe a bit later on, but right now they're going to try and stick together. But it's going to be fascinating to see how this plays out.
And I'm assuming when Brody Masters pulling out on the straight, it's just to get a little bit of extra cooling in before he jumps back in behind Traher.
Well, if that's the case, he's been doing a lot of cooling. He hasn't been right up behind. He hasn't really been close enough behind Traher to build up any significant heat, I wouldn't think. He kind of gets close for a minute and then kind of pulls out. I think it could just be he's just having a bit of trouble sticking right in that draft. I'd be surprised if he needs that much cooling.
Yep.
And what it's actually done there is he's moved around a little bit, and that's allowed sort of Norman and Hardigan there and Withy, who's jumped back up, to get right on the back. But they need to be steady and they need to be in lockstep with each other, because if they're not steady, it's not going to happen. As we see another truck pull to the outside. Yeah. Who's that? That's Ruben Phelps pulling there to the outside to lead that top lane.
Yeah.
So let's see. We saw Traher push Ryan Jones to the lead earlier on. Can he do the same here for Ruben Phelps? It looks like he can. What a push that's been. Look at that. I'm going to have to remember this for the 500 if I come across Traher's, to get him in behind me, because he's doing a fantastic job.
See here on board, he's just right up behind him.
Yeah, pushing. They're almost clear. Is Phelps going to drop down? He's got to do it now, because if he doesn't, I don't think he wants to leave Traher.
He's way. They're going to do the double.
Done it.
They're going to do the double.
Traher's done it, and he's going to cut and lead the inside line. Great move to thread the needle. Fantastic work there. Luke Traher take him down. Now, can the outside lane keep far enough up that Ryan Jones doesn't have the ability to jump up there and lead it and get pushed around again? So we'll see. Ryan's done that move a couple of times tonight, so we'll see if he's able to do it again. But he really needs a good pusher there to help him.
And of course, the thing to still take into account here is fuel. The Traher stopped on lap 46, so he should need to stop again to get that done across the line. So we'll have to keep an eye on that as well.
I think he would have saved enough being in the pack where he was. He was behind cars a fair bit. And if you're able to roll around at sort of, 75-80% throttle, that can save you enough. So I reckon anybody who hasn't spent a huge amount of time leading will probably be okay, so long as they pitted on that last caution. Ryan Jones, of course, did not pit on that last caution, and I have my doubts about whether he can make it. I really do.
Lap 31 was the last time he was through pit lane, so...
he's not making it. No, he's not making it. Not unless he's got some sort of oil refinery on board in the back of that thing. That's not happening. So he'd be praying for another caution. And the way these guys are driving, it looks like he might not get it. But as the aggression ramps up in the last couple of laps, we'll see what happens.
Steve Hoppett's just dropped the genius tag on Luke Trahair's move.
It was good. It was good.
Phelps now
High
getting a push,
five.
though. Phelps trying to move down. He's not going to quite get it done, though.
Yeah, definitely. We see Trahair just moving up a little bit as well. Phelps trying to come down. They're getting very close. That's going to let Jones in if they're not careful. And have a look there, because we've got Phelps on the outside. He's got Michael Shaw, his teammate, in there behind him, and Ryan Jones off into the pit lane. So that answers that. It was a gamble. Was it a gamble worth taking to take the lead of the race back again? Well, I mean, history will show it probably wasn't. But I'm all for people rolling the dice on strategy. I like when they do it. And, of course, him pulling out of that bottom line slowed them down enough that Ruben Phelps was actually able to lead that lap. But now Danny G right up there behind Trahair. And Danny G is a good guy to have behind you in this scenario. So those two guys, Gallagher, Danny G, are going to push very well. The challenge is now on for Michael Shaw, Norman Clark, Jason Hardigan to really lock up together really good and push each other past this bottom group.
It's been a really, really good race. Obviously, those two events taking out a number of runners, but it's meant that we've had a big change up at the front here.
Yeah, certainly have. And what we've actually got ahead of this pack that we've been watching dicing for the lead is I just saw just go out a shot. There's 2 or 3 trucks there. We've got Nathan Roloff there. We've got Brad Allison. We've got Paul Jackson there. And those guys are running a fair way off the pace. They're only running 51-second laps, running a lot of damage, and the lead pack is bearing down on them like an oil tanker on a rowboat. It's going to be, if these guys aren't aware, that is going to get real spicy real fast.
So I've had a big call in the chat there. Dave Douglas has jumped on the Matty Raymond train for the win. So that will...
Well, where is Matty Raymond running at the moment? He's 14th, so he's
on
kind
the
of
lead lap.
He's on the lead lap, and he's on the back of that lead pack. So that's probably not a terrible idea. But what he's going to have to do is link up with his teammate there in the 87, Jacob, and get a bit of a push to the front. If they can run together, and of course they got Riley Curtis there in front as well. If those guys can make a bit of a push to the front together, maybe take Masters along with them, they might be able to do something. But from where they are, they really need to get on with it. As we see them making moves around the lap cars, Daniel Stevens staying well to the top. Most of the guys are actually doing a really good job staying up there, staying out the way. Dan Stevens going to try and get a bit of a pull from that pack. That's not going to work with that much damage, unfortunately. He's going to fall off the back of this train. Did I just see some sparks there? Did somebody get down too late? No, it looks like it runs okay.
So Chris Purnell, team principal of Crank Esports, jumping in the chat. Of course, he is well and truly pushing on the rear bumper of Luke Trahair, try and take the win for the team.
Metaphorically speaking, of course, but it'd be something that there'd be quite something for that team to win on its ANZCAR debut. Be really good. So be good to see that happen. I managed to do the same last year in this very race for my new team, and if we get first time team winner again, then that'd be quite a coincidence as we get a third line forming up near the wall now. Norman Clark, Jason Hardigan, they have had enough of sitting in behind those Activity Hub Barley trucks. They're trying to get something going themselves. They've decided now 10 laps to go, 9 laps to go. It's go time though. Is that pulling up in front there? It looks as though Ruben Phelps trying to block them off, and that has not worked, unfortunately. That block that Phelps put on has killed all their momentum, and they're not going to get that working.
To go. Sort of pensive at the moment, holding your breath a little bit about who's going to do what. Yeah, definitely can do the move. There's the lap cars, lap trucks as well, just playing a little bit extra with the ability for people to get out and do what they need to do. Just trying to see again that Hamish Gallagher, I think, is trying to get back out again. And sorry, that was Stephen Williams trying to get back out again and make his move. Not quite able to get there.
Michael Shaw there, nearly running up into the wall. Has actually broken the draft a little bit on his teammate Ruben Phelps, and that's seen that outside line fall a little way back. We got Carr looking to come through the middle. That's broken up those teammates. That's Jason Hardigan. Yeah. He was way back a moment ago. Where's he come from? Just pushed through underneath. They've broken up those Activity Hub teammates now, and Jason Hardigan is going to be trying to push Ruben Phelps. But Traher, all he's got to do right now is hold that bottom line, pray that no one gets in his way, and hope that Danny G and Gallagher stick with him. I can't imagine his teammates they're going to. They may pull out and try and make a move late in the race. But if you've got that, change from the lead there. Phelps got a fantastic push there from Hardigan and has managed to drop down and take the lead away from Traher.
So Traher, they're trying to move up as well. Not quite able to do it.
Phelps putting the blocks on, as he's entitled to do.
Jason will give him the favour as well. A lap car.
Yeah, we've got some experience on the outside row now as well. We've got Jason Hardigan there. We've got Stephen Williams, we've got Norman Clark. Very experienced trio there up the top. As it looks as though, I wouldn't do that too often, Ruben.
Phelps has opened the gate and he's lost it.
Yep.
So he's dropped back out of the lead now. Hardigan in a good position, taking over.
Yeah. Squeezing. Squeezing past Major.
Hold
That's
your breath.
absolutely nuts. But, look, I think Phelps there trying to block that top line.
Just lost
and
it.
Unfortunately, what he's done is he's done exactly what Ryan Jones did earlier on and lost it, although he hasn't been able to recover. Hardigan hung right out to dry, though. That has absolutely screwed the good run that he was having. And now the two Mitch Motorsports teammates on the outside trying to push past Traher as well. And they've done so because, once again, it looks as though Traher not getting the greatest push there, and the two Mitch Motorsports trucks back to the lead.
So well played by them, 6 to go. Patiently waiting there for something to happen that will give them the opportunity.
You've got to take your opportunities when they come.
Right there to do so, exactly as you described. 6 to go, Traher back into the top line, looking for a push. He's got Phelps behind him.
Yeah, Phelps has been all right so far with the push. So let's see if those guys can work together, push back up around the outside. Looks as though Phelps actually, unfortunately for Traher, abandons him. And he's dropped down into that bottom lane trying to make that one position there. But he's pulled back out in front of Traher, now trying to lead that top lane. Someone's going to pull out. Norman Clark's out there. Traher, he's kind of umming and ahhing, really, won't he? Pulling back out there. And, it looks as though we're going to get a bit of a top line going. Looks as though Phelps is going to try and make the move. He's led this race for a bit, and he's got a taste of it. And what's more?
We've got a little bit messy there in that top lane. Hasn't helped anyone, really.
Yeah, they've got to form up again, because if they don't, it's going to finish like this.
Two teammates at the front in the ascendancy now, you would say, unless a couple of these guys get together. They've only got 5 laps left to do it. So
not long to go, and Phelps is doing the right thing. He's hanging out there, he's looking for help. Unfortunately, he hasn't got any adventurous takers with him. As that Masters looking to the outside, thinking, make a decision, mate. He's got to stay where he is. And looks as though Withy's got to stay down there as well. And Traher and Norman Clark going to try and push up to the back. But they've got to get on with it. Like, if you're going to win this race, the time to make a move is like right now.
You've got 4 in that top line. Slide back down again to the low line. Not looking to be aggressive.
We got a touch, and we have a wreck. Withy around, and Traher is involved in that. Michael Shaw involved in that as well. And you know what that's going to do? That's going to bring Ryan Jones back.
It is. That should mean we get 1 lap.
Just going to have a look at what caused that one there. I think it's very hard to tell, but I think possibly Withy. Yeah, Withy's moved up into the side of Traher. And the rest is history, unfortunately. Traher actually got through pretty well, but Carl Withy, Michael Shaw, the big losers from that. Well, isn't this going to be a finish? I think we might get the we might actually get the green-white checker here that we were referring to earlier on.
Yeah, it was Withy. It just came down there, unfortunately. Doesn't look like he got too much damage, so should be able to continue.
Yeah, I think Michael Shaw copped a good whack. And I'm just going to have a look back to see where Ryan Jones is. He's was he a lap down? It looked as though he was a lap down, but he will be the first car 1 lap down, so he's going to get that wave around. He's got plenty of fuel, as should everybody by now, so we probably won't see too much in the way of takers unless they have damage to repair. But Ryan Jones, by my calculation, is going to get that wave around. And is going to be, we've seen how aggressive he's been so far, is going to be entertainment coming from the back of that lead pack.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. So he will get that, not involved, will get that wave around. And it should be full pelt by the time they come around to go green.
The only problem he might have is the fact he's going to have to rejoin the back of the pack, and that means he's going to rejoin behind all the guys carrying damage.
Would you believe this?
No. Oh, okay. So they must have needed fuel.
Danny G, Hamish Gallagher's jumped in, Reece May, Norm Clark. So there's plenty. So this changes things completely. It's Cade Donnelly who's now in the lead. Brodie Masters right behind him. Stephen Williams, believe it or not, Luke Trahere, who was involved in that accident, is back up into 4th.
Yeah,
so
Luke's truck on the front's looking a bit sad. I'm not thinking that he's going to have too much in the way of pace. That thing's pretty beat up. So I don't think we're going to see too much in the way of him. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't see we're going to see too much in the way of him pushing for victory now. But I can't wait for this all to shake out. We've got Cade Donnelly there leading the race now. He's just been doing his thing. Sitting there, he's going to have Masters in there behind him. Well, he's starting next to him because they're going to form out 2 by 2. And Donnelly is going to have Stephen Williams, who's carrying a little bit of damage. It looks like forming up behind him. And, of course, that's crucial. And then we've got Masters, who's got Trahere forming up behind him with a lot of damage. So is it going to be a straight gunfight between this front row? I don't know. Maybe.
And of course, there was the early call about Matty Raymond potentially taking this one out. That might play into his favour as well.
Well, Matty Raymond's truck is absolutely pristine.
Dealership condition, only driven on Sundays to church.
That thing's looking good. That thing's looking good. And he's got Ruben Phelps around him. He's got Gallagher. He's got Danny G, who are all in good condition and are all fast. So if he can hook up on a train with those, there's no reason he can't drive to the front. But they've got to get on with it. They've got to do it real quick because this is a green, white checker finish. So for those who don't know, they're going to come around and they're going to take the green flag. The next lap, they're going to get the white flag. The next lap, they are going to get the checkered flag. They are not got a lot of time to get this done. So Cade Donnelly and Brodie Masters, they must scarcely be able to believe what's happening at the moment because they're both relatively new to ANZCAR to be out there leading this race now with a whole bunch of damaged trucks behind them. That's going to be it's going to be a good finish. I can't wait to see it.
Can I just say, I mean, the 2 cars directly behind them both have damage. Trahere more so. Steve Williams. And there's a whole heap of fresh cars right behind that. So
yeah,
anyone's bet.
I'm not counting out the Mitch cars, Danny G and Gallagher, because what those two are going to do is to try their absolute best to line up again. What that could look like potentially is one of them not getting away quite as well as they might and leaving a bit of a gap for the teammate to slot up in front of them. And then those two might try to get up together, rip the top together, get around those damaged trucks, and then they can work together but against 2 guys there who I'm just noticing are actually teammates there, leading that front row, and see how well they hook up. But the experience is definitely with Gallagher, Danny G. So we'll see how these two teammates at the front work together and see if they can pull back what's going to be a famous result for their team if they do it.
And of course, Ryan Jones, mint car as well, towards the back of the pack, just jumping on the back there. So
yeah, he's got no help, unfortunately.
Watch for him, by himself. Probably not going to be able to get too much done. As we go green again.
Away they go. Stephen Williams giving a pretty good push there to Donnelly. Looks like Trahere doing his best to help Masters out, but I don't think there's a lot of pace in that truck. Now let's have a look.
No.
Oh, look out.
Oh,
are they going to hold it? Are they going to hold it? We might stay green, but that has given... No, we've gone yellow.
Wow.
All right, so that... Now, that was the only green-white checker. So, Cade Donnelly, take a bow.
That means Luke Trahere will finish second.
That means Luke Trahere will finish second. So, a bit of an anticlimax. I was kind of hoping for a little bit more than that, but I'm just going to go back and have a quick look what happened, actually. Stephen Williams, I think, got a touch from someone.
I noticed Brodie Masters just moved back in.
I think, okay, so Brodie Masters, Trahere's tried to push Brodie, and he's actually moved down into Stephen Williams, and that's what's caused that problem. So, unfortunate for those guys. They all managed to sort of hold it. I'm a bit surprised
it actually was a little bit further back in the pack. So, Paul Jackson got hit by Ryan.
Right, okay.
And they're down well on the infield in pit lane, and so that's what's
Yeah.
actually triggered it. So it's Paul Jackson and Nathan Rowley.
Yeah, Ryan Jones is absolutely that. I expect better, honestly. He's broken every single restart rule in ANZCAR there, and he's going to find himself a penalty because he's pulled right out and tried to thread the needle. I understand the guys on the bottom were damaged and so on, but if you cause a wreck doing that, you're going to face some sanction, unfortunately. And that's
on the count back, Brody was still in front of Luke. And in fact, I think maybe even Steve Williams might have been in front of Luke as well. So
so that's disappointing because it's robbed us of a very exciting finish and not restarting properly. So that's not great. But in any event, it is what it is. Cade Donnelly won't mind because he's gone up there. He's got his first ANZCAR victory, I think I'm fairly sure in saying. And I believe his teammate is going to finish second. So what a result for that team.
Can't get much better for your first race than a win, that is for sure. So, in fact, you probably can, and that's to have your teammate right behind you. So, a good result for them and a great way to start your racing history with ANZCAR.
Yeah, as I say, Cade Donnelly's done a few races, but he's certainly not a long-term member by any stretch. So this is a great result for him. Great result for them. He's just got to go around, complete the laps now until they actually give him the checkered flag. So I'm assuming he's going to have the fuel to do that. He'll be able to clutch and get around. I'm sure his teammate might just give him a little bit of a push if anything were to happen to that truck. But in any event, he's going to be doing the winner's burnouts in just a few moments' time. Here he is, actually.
So that's it. Oh, wow.
Yeah, generally you kind of drive all the way back round, let everybody else get in the pits rather than do the burnout in front of the whole pack. But that's just, hey, look, it's his first time. So we'll just let him pop those burnouts there. Great results for the number 40 there, Cade Donnelly. And something that hopefully he's going to remember for an awful long time.
Well, I think we would have been very, very surprised if after the 30 lap mark when we had actually had all green flag running, if the race had stayed that way, but not too shortly thereafter, a big accident that took out a number of the more experienced campaigners, and then followed up again by another couple of incidents late in the race. But the net result of all of that is Cade Donnelly taking out the win with Brodie Masters in second and Steve Williams in third place. So congratulations to our podium there. They will join us on the stream in the not too distant future, so do stick around for that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So looking forward to having a chat to these guys. Coming into the broadcast booth, having a little bit of a chat with them and see how he feels after such a fantastic result. I'm fairly sure both of these guys are in the ANZCAR Discord, at least members of it. So hopefully they come in. But it might be a good time, just while we're waiting for that to take place, to run through our finishing order, Stuart.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's bring it up on the screen now. Should have come in. And there we go. So we've got Cade Donnelly, Brodie Masters, and Danny G. No, that is not it at all. What has that done there?
No, I think that is correct. I think we've got Cade Donnelly, Brodie Masters, Danny G is what my order's showing as well.
Oh, that's very interesting. Okay, my stream is a little slow. It said Stephen Williams had finished in third, so apologies for that, Danny G. We've got Carl Withy, Ruben Phelps, rounding out our top five, Hamish Gallagher, Norm Clark and Reese May, followed by Matty Raymond and Riley Curtis. We've got Jacob Schuer, Michael Shaw, Ryan Jones, Stephen Williams, Luke Trahair, rounding out all those who finished on the lead lap. Brad Allison, the last of our finishers, I believe. Yes, indeed, last of our finishers. So then we had a number of outs. The list is long and distinguished. Rolek, Jackson, Sloggett, Hardigan, Stevens, Major James, Schultz, Patton, Clark, Finlay, Purnell, Carol Walden, Dylan Aquisio, Skurlock, Wellman and Mick Taylor, all the outs for this evening from those incidents that we had early on and throughout the night.
Yeah, so typical super speedway race. Started out looking as though we might get very clean, but we certainly had those two big ones, didn't we? That wiped out a lot of the potential contenders for that victory, and we wound up with Cade Donnelly getting it done Who knows how it might have finished up if we hadn't had that late caution. Would he have been able to hold on? We'll never know. But it doesn't matter now because he's come away with his first victory. So fantastic for him. Now I'm just having a look down there in the chat at the moment, and it looks as though we've got we've got both the first and second place drivers here.
We do. We've got the teammates in the booth. Kate Donnelly, Brody Masters, congratulations and welcome into the broadcast booth after a surprising and good race for both of you.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, it was pretty full on. Brought around at the end.
Yeah, thanks, guys. It's good to go 1-2 with my team, mate.
Absolutely, and certainly managing to avoid a couple of really big incidents. We're obviously expecting that to happen given the size of the field, and it's the first race of the season as well. So, how did you find things, Kate?
Yeah, pretty good. The racing was really good, actually. Like, everyone was tidy. I mean, like you said, there was a few incidents, but luckily avoided them. Yeah, pretty stoked.
Sorry, I was just looking for our third place getter there, not quite there. And Brody, yourself?
Yeah, pretty much the same as Cade, just in the right spot at the right time, I guess, when the accidents happen and avoided them, I suppose.
And how close did you guys run with fuel? So both of you pitted on lap 46. We saw at the last caution period there a number of the drivers all jump through and get a splash and dash to try and get this one finished.
Yeah, it was pretty tight, mate. I think I had 6 litres on board, so yeah, it was pretty close.
And I was the same.
So not too much more running to go there. Danny G's jumped in at the booth as well. Congratulations, Danny, on third place.
Yeah, thanks, fellas. How you going?
Very, very well. I do have just a couple of questions here for the top 3 getters, especially Cade. Start with you. You found yourself, gridded quite well, qualified quite well, and then had to sort of you dropped back a little bit, found your way back at the front. There was lots of swapping for the lead, lots of guys getting good pushes on the outside row, but it seemed as though, for the most part at least, you were content to stay down on the inside and just kind of ride it out. Was that a strategic thing? Was it just what you felt at the time, or was it just the fact that you weren't necessarily looking to get pushed from anyone around that outside row?
Well, I think when it was happening, it was pretty early on, so I reckon it was a safe bet just to drop back and let things unfold. I mean, there's a risk of getting caught in something, but yeah, it paid off, mate.
Yeah, worked in the end. Doesn't matter now. Absolutely worked fantastically well. And, of course, on to your teammate Brody there in second place. Great result for you as well. Came up from, I believe it was 12th on the grid and made your way forward and seemed to use a very similar strategy as Cade. Just basically running that bottom line. I think we did see you poke up a couple of times, but for the most part ran on the low line. It all just kind of unfolded in front of you. Was that the way you saw it, or how did it play out from your point of view?
Yeah, pretty much like that, mate. Tried to go to the top a couple of times, but ran out of helpers, so tried to just find my way back to the bottom, and then sort of got in behind Cade and thought I was in a pretty good spot following him around, so it worked out pretty well in the end.
Yeah, certainly did. You certainly can't complain with a 1-2. So moving on to you, Danny, third place tonight. Well done. We did have a little bit of a think that you were probably looking good for the victory at one stage. How did that play out from your point of view?
I thought so too. And then my teammate Hamish said to me, or he asked me with about 15, 20 to go, how are you looking on fuel? And I thought I was looking all right. And I said, oh, not so good. So I was happy that I think it was Ryan got in front of me and I could save fuel. And I was about to probably, when I got back into the lead after putting a good move on Luke to get back in the lead, I don't know if I was going to run out maybe last lap in 3 or 4 or not. So it kind of saved me, kind of didn't. But I'll take a third.
Yeah, definitely. And you guys were hooking up really well. Hamish Gallagher, of course, brand new to that team, but has been around a while now in ANZCAR. So it looked as though you guys got a really good rapport going straight away as far as bumping each other, drafting each other, pushing forward. Got a couple of really nice pushes on there. So how did that team dynamic work for you?
Yeah, not too bad. I think we found each other after the first pit stop. We sort of blew to the front. He forgot to take fuel, so he had to come back around, I think, under safety car and ended up getting back up the lead. But, from him pushing me, he was, fantastic.
Yeah, it looked as though you guys had a lot of pace. And, of course, we saw a couple of bits early on in the race where where Ryan Jones got in behind you. He always seemed to want to lead a line. He was always trying to drive around the outside and so on. So that certainly made it very entertaining for us. But I imagine for you guys up there, it was also very sort of very tightly fought and close.
Yeah, for sure. I was impressed. I thought there was going to be a lot more wrecks and cautions, but I think the start of the race went pretty much 40 laps halfway. And I thought it was a really good race.
Yeah, I think we'd all probably agree with that. So I think now, Stuart, if you don't have any further questions for these guys, we might start with you, Kate, and let you give the shout outs, thank the sponsors, thank the team, say hi to your mum, all of that stuff.
I'd just like to thank the Sim boys, mate. We get together on Friday nights and all come together and work out what we're doing, and just a good bunch of blokes. So cheers.
And Brody, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, pretty much just the same. And I suppose I'll see all the Sim boys Friday night for a few celebratory beers for Kate's win.
Fantastic. There's nothing like getting around with your mates and celebrating a good victory, be it in the virtual world or the real world. And Danny G, finally to you.
Yeah, just Mitch Motorsports, Bob King for the paint job, and you guys in the broadcast booth.
Awesome. So, that wraps up a really good night's racing, I think. It could have turned real sour real fast, as these races sometimes can, but fantastic that we saw some long green flag periods and some good racing, wouldn't you say, Stuart?
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously have to give the big shout out to you as well, coming along and giving me an absolute schooling in all things truck racing, which I very much need. I've got a lot of homework to do when I head off from the broadcast tonight before next week. So thanks for jumping in, Ed, as always, with your experience to give us the down low on what happens when we get 35 trucks racing around Daytona, and giving us the insight that we need to make sure we get the job done properly for everyone who joined the stream, of whom there were plenty. So thank you to everyone else who jumped on the line. Of course, we are back next week, same time, same place, where we head to Homestead. What do we expect there, Ed?
Well, Homestead is, it's still in Florida, I can tell you that much, but it's a bit of a different layout to Daytona. It's what they call a paperclip sort of layout. So 2 straights with a 180-degree turn at each end, mile and a half around, and quite fast, quite steeply banked, some good progressive banking there. So more steeply banked up against the wall than it is down low, which is designed to try and give some double file racing. We don't really get it so much on iRacing yet as we do in real life. But certainly it's going to be an entertaining race, I think. It's a track that looks very simple, but does require a very, very good touch to get the most out of a car there. So I think we'll be seeing the cream rise to the top there for certain.
Well, looking forward to that most definitely. So, as I said, same time, same place next week for some more of the truck action. A very enjoyable first round to the season to get things underway here, and of course you'll be able to catch more of the ANZCAR action tomorrow night as well. So I believe we've got the ARCA cars on tomorrow night for their first round as well, so do keep an eye out for that. Of course, if you're tuning into FGMeCast tomorrow night, we have the grand finale of the Oz Pro-Am Sim Series, 1.5 hour enduro from Mount Panorama. So if you're looking for some more action, then do jump onto the stream. I'll be on again tomorrow night from 7:45 to bring you all of the action from the last round of the Oz Pro-Am Sim Series for its Season 2 finale, so don't miss out on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And as far as ANZCAR goes, as you mentioned, we've got this is our Daytona Speed Weeks that launches our season that goes all year long. So we have the trucks obviously here tonight. We've got ARCA on tomorrow night. We've got a day off on Thursday, and then everything starts to ramp up for the Daytona 500. So the Cup cars will be involved in the Clash. That'll be running the Daytona Road Course on Thursday night. Then we have qualifying on Friday. Saturday we have the Twin 125 dual qualifying races. And then on Sunday it's all go for the 500. So big week for ANZCAR. And big week for all of us here, so I can't wait to get out there and have a go myself.
And for people wanting to tune in to the 500, where can they catch that?
They can catch that one on SimShed Broadcasting. So they're running our Cup streams this season. So if you head over there, they can watch. You'll be able to watch the Clash there. You'll be able to watch the duels and of course the Daytona 500 on Sunday afternoon.
I was about saying, just roughly what time does that kick off for people who want to tune in?
The duels and everything are in the evening, so very similar time to tonight. So is the Clash. The Daytona 500, depending on where you're watching in Australia, is going to be sort of in between 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock, depending on what state you're in.
Fantastic. So plenty to tune in to there from ANZCAR as always. So that will wrap up the this evening's proceedings. So again, thank you very much for jumping on, Ed, and we look forward to catching everyone who tuned in throughout the stream next week here on Monday evening. Thank you very much for watching, and we will catch you then.